All right, it is October 1st, and I have all sorts of entertaining updates. So, I have finished drawing my little grid. Bunch of dots spaced ½ inch apart. All the way across this. It took a while. Probably wasn't necessary to do that small of a grid because of the kind of drawing I'm doing, but I did it. So, I'm going to put tape here. It's painter's tape. Haven't done that yet. I'm not worried about the edges being really clean because they are going to be covered up, but it does kind of help keep the paper from buckling as much, so I will do that. Now, let's talk about easels. So, I did attempt to put this on top of this aluminum field easel that I have. And as you may have predicted in your mind, it was not going to work. It's not stable enough. While this will get tall enough for this particular piece of gator board, it is not stable enough. The base doesn't get wide enough, and then on top of it, just the aluminum, arms of this thing are just not. They flex too much. I have this bag thing here. I forget what it's called. So you can put weights in this. And I tried putting like a book in here, and one of these wasn't sewn correctly, so then it came off. So then I had to sew that back on. And even when it was sewn back on working correctly, I will show you what happens. So I stuck a book in here, and it creates a situation where this really just wants to slide really easily. See? So, and it's like coming together. So that is not going to work. So I've come to the conclusion that yes, I do in fact need a real easel. So then I found an easel I wanted, and of course it wasn't available in the local store, so now I've had to order this easel, and it will be here on Monday, which is the 6th of October. So between now and then, I have to figure out some other option, and I'm probably going to try just making this work where it's kind of propped up against my drawing board, even though it's going to be too tall for it. But if that doesn't work, then my other option is going to be to stick it up on the wall in my music/workout room and just tape it up there or something similar, and do my sketching and start drawing against the wall. It's not my favorite option, but I think I can make it work for a few days. I could also probably put it on the floor for part of it, but I think the height of it is going to make that difficult. So we're going to get creative. Okay, this is how far I've gotten on day one. So it took me forever to get this all set up. I'm literally using yarn to keep this drawing board, to keep the gator board in place on top of the drawing board, which is on top of my table easel, which is not tall enough. It's hilarious. I ordered a new easel, but it's not going to be here for a few days, so I'm just going to have to make it do with this. This is a very long piece of parchment paper that I actually used when I was flattening, when I had sprayed and flattened the paper. And so I'm using that to keep my hand off of the paper so I'm not like leaving a bunch of hand oils on everything. So I just went through with the grid and I started sketching everything, and I'm just trying to get everything placed correctly. So this is all the most important stuff, but I got to do the top part still. So yeah, tomorrow, hopefully I'll be done with the sketch and I'll be able to get started on some very like minor line work. But I'm going to take my time and I'm going to try and do all this right. I'm not going to try and speed through all of it. It's not really going to do me any good. So it was nice though to actually get started sketching, because drawing a bunch of little grid dots on here took forever. Putting the tape on here took forever. Setting up the easel took forever. And it was like, finally I got some gratification. So it's like 12:30 and I'm going to go to bed. A challenge I have run into with working with this really big grid is getting everything placed correctly. And I knew this was going to be a challenge. So it's not coming as a surprise. It's more just like an annoyance. I'm here. So this area up here, I'm running into a problem where I know that I drew something in the wrong spot. And so I'm working through trying to figure out exactly what that is and which thing I need to erase and redo. So yeah, it's just going to take a while. This is like one of the hardest parts of this, actually, because once I have everything set in place and I start inking, I'm kind of stuck with whatever I did. So I can't be messing that up yet, which is part of the reason that I'm definitely going to have the whole tree mapped out and drawn before I start inking, because I don't want to make like a unfixable mistake. So I know that it's like a tree too, and their limbs, and you could definitely take artistic license, but I want to take artistic license by choice and not by making a mistake. Okay, I found the spot. Found it. So I even write in here what the numbers are. I went into my Photoshop and actually put numbers in the grid, so you can see that I've numbered from the center, and I numbered every 4 all the way down and all the way up. So that I could figure out where I was, because once I started to get farther away from the center, it was just really hard for me to tell exactly where I was in this grid. It was getting frustrating and confusing. And so then now when I'm on here, I actually have in very light pencil put some of the numbers on here, not all of them. But I figured it out. It's in 12 from the center, right there. That is the mistake. I started this limb just a little bit early, and as a result, it threw off all of this stuff up here. So some of this up here, up here is probably correct, and so I'm gonna have to just go through everything and figure out which things are wrong. Annoying, very annoying. I knew this was gonna happen though. Honestly, I just knew I was gonna be doing this. This is part of the deal. This early stage just always takes a long time, and it requires just a lot of determination to get it done. It's once I'm done with this part, then I get to do the fun part, which is the pen. But I have to get through this. Yeah, this is practicing a really hard piece and getting to that point where you can even just play it. It's rough. This is the end of day 2. This is where I've gotten nearly done with the pencil sketch part of this. There's a little more to go. I was really hoping I'd be able to start inking tonight, but I'm just tired. So this all requires a lot of concentration. And I had to go through and do all sorts of erasing and moving things around and fixing them over and over again. So it will be worth it though. It is day 3. And you can probably hear in the next room, Bill is watching a action movie. This is what I've got so far. I'm working my way down. A lot of this stuff in here is going to be mostly black. So I don't need to draw in so many details in this area. So it's mostly this stuff up here that's going to be... And this was the most challenging last night. I was... Man, that took a lot of work. This area over here needs some stuff too, but it is like more black. So yeah. Okay, I'm calling the pencil drawing part of this done. A couple spots up here that I, put things in slightly wrong place, but it's not going to matter there. I'm also going to push myself to kind of play around with everything and not exactly replicate this picture. So this is just me blocking everything out and basically placing it where everything is so that I have a framework to kind of start with. I love this part down here with the trees in the background. So I've thought about this, and one thing I hadn't tested was if the masking fluid is going to run if I apply it at this angle, and I think it will. So I may have to lay this down on the floor or something. I don't know. So right now I'm actually going to go back over to my sketchbook that has the same paper and play around with a couple things and try and make a decision about that. Because there are a few spots in here where I do need to go ahead and save the white now. And then there are a few spots where, like in here, where I do need one layer of very light ink wash first before I add the masking fluid. So I guess I need to know now. I did kind of a mess around version of the bottom part with the little trees that I was talking about that are in the background. So I'm going to draw in some masking fluid. We're going to see what's going to happen here. So I've already done a light layer of very diluted ink. So nothing's fully white. And I'm just going to go in masking fluid on all these parts that I'm meaning to preserve from the full black color. I'm just going to kind of be a little bit haphazard on this on purpose, but some of these are going to be thicker applications, so I would think that those are the ones that are most likely to run. So I'm actually going to hold it up like this because that's what I was most concerned about is it going to run? I'm doing this. I mean, okay, I'm holding it pretty vertically right now. And it is trying to drip. Actually, the thing that I'm finding the hardest is just using the ruling pen at that angle. It's like dripping down the inside of the ruling pen. So that was actually not the problem I had anticipated, but it is a problem. And it is also kind of dripping. So I am going to need to lay this thing down flat to apply the masking fluid, which I kind of suspected. Okay, so I have flattened the board. It's not perfectly flat, but it's a lot flatter than it was, so I think I should be okay. I may run into some problems being able to reach all the way up here. I may have to like scoot it down, I guess. Can I even do that? Looks like I can. So that could be interesting. So if you look at this, the spots where there are true white are down in the sun, and then there are some highlights up here that have it. So I'm going to use masking fluid to mark those out and let that dry, and then put the board back in a vertical position and get started working with pen. Okay, so one thing I'm going to try and do before I add the masking fluid is lighten up some of this pencil on here. Usually the masking fluid will pretty much take off the pencil when you peel it off, and honestly, like the Speedball Indie ink really covers it up pretty well. Like, it just kind of blends in with it. But because this part is supposed to really be white, I want it to look good. I'm not going to lighten up the pencil too much on that second circle because I am going to need it. But this inner one, I'm going to lighten it up. Just thinking a little bit about how I'm going to do that. Okay. I played around with this a lot. You know, in the end, to be honest, like, each time I messed around with doing this sun, I just ended up painting in white on it anyway, because it was just never as bright as I wanted. So I have a feeling that I'm going to end up painting it over anyway. But just in case, we're going to do it the right way. It might work out. It might be different on this, like, even though I did a to-scale drawing in my sketchbook, you still never really know how things are going to work out when you're actually looking at them in context. So I think it's good to give yourself a lot of options. That's what I'm trying to do here. So I've got my ruling pen ready, and just going to do my best to draw in this inner circle of the sun. It is the only part that is truly white. And I keep trying to remind myself that I don't need to be like obsessively perfect about this. It's not even going to have the look I want if it is. So I'm not trying to make this look like a photograph. I'm trying to make this look like art. I really do recommend, though, testing your masking fluid on the surface you're going to use and all of that kind of stuff. I've used this masking fluid a lot, so I do know how it behaves. But I have had some mishaps. I've used it on the Canson XL watercolor paper before, and that was a disaster. So I actually had it just like peel up a chunk of the paper. It didn't work very well. So I think your paper really matters a lot. And also if it's going to sit for like a really long time, it might be a problem too. So those are all things to think about. Now I feel like I need to scoot this whole thing down. I'm going to be able to reach any of that up there. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, I've added the masking fluid. It has dried. I have put my drawing board back up, and now I'm going to start drawing with pen. Okay, so when I do these ink drawings, I always like to start by blocking in the darkest things and then working down to lighter things. And the reason is that I don't want to lose my lines. So if I don't do that and I start out with something that's a lighter tone, it'll actually kind of like basically cover up the pencil lines, and then I won't know where they are anymore. So that's why I started out doing that years ago, and I'm just sticking with it now. But the other nice thing is too, is once you know what the blackest black is in here, it's kind of easier to, like if you have your whitest white and your blackest black already set, then it's much easier to kind of like do all the things in the middle and gauge them properly. Now, during this first part, I'm not going to spend a bunch of time being too precise. I'm going to use this Faber Castell Pitt Artist Pen Big Brush. And the whole point of using the big brush is that it's just a lot more efficient. Now, usually these don't have much of a smell to them, but this bigger one sometimes has a little bit of a scent to it. I think just because there's just like more ink coming out at a time. I have no idea. It's like a very faint smell that kind of reminds me just a little bit of like the way the Sharpies smell. But it's not anywhere like a Sharpie. It doesn't like make you high or anything like that. Now, while I'm doing this, I am looking at what's happening on my picture just to see if there's anything I kind of want to change while I'm in there and where I have kind of room to play around. Because I have just a bunch of lines on here, and sometimes it's easy to kind of like misinterpret what those lines are unless you're paying a lot of attention. I'm just trying to get like the big shapes in here. I'm not getting a little obsessive about it yet. Just painting everything that's obviously full black. Leaving the fussy stuff for the next step. All right, this is progress on day, what are we on, day 4? Day 4. Just a lot of coloring in big chunks of stuff with black. So that will continue tomorrow. Not a quick process. Even if you're just coloring in big chunks with black, you have to kind of like make sure you're not missing areas that are supposed to have more detail. Just gonna keep going tomorrow. It is October 5th, and I should be getting my new easel tomorrow, which I'm excited about. And that should help me be able to adjust the height of my drawing, because right now, if you look at it, the bottom of my easel is quite low. It's practically hitting my knee when I sit on that bench there. So since my easel is coming tomorrow and I should be able to adjust things more easily, I'm going to spend today working on the area of the picture that is comfortable for me to draw from sitting in that bench. So that's basically this area. So that's where I'm going to spend most of my time working. I'm just going to pull out all the various different size pens and just kind of get going with what I need to do. I'm not going to worry too much about whether or not I'm covering large areas or small areas. I think I have plenty to do, so it's not going to be a problem. I went and added numbers over the tape because I was seeing I was clearly going to just cover them up really quickly. So hopefully that will make things easier later. So while I'm working on these area of the bark, I keep visually losing my place between where I am here and where I am here. It's driving me nuts because it's just a bunch of patterns. It's just hard to keep my eye on it. So I created a little arrow for myself. Yeah, it probably looks hilarious, but it's just saving me time and energy. And then I put a yellow guideline that I'm just going to move around the Photoshop composition so I know where I am. Just doing what I got to do over here. Well, my little arrow definitely helped me keep my place better. I have also hit the point where my brain is just over it, done, and tired. So that's enough for today. So yeah, I'll keep going on the trunk tomorrow. And hopefully I'll have my new easel tomorrow, so this will be easier to configure. All right, so my easel got here before dinner, and I finally got to assemble it. And of course that took a little while, so I'm not going to have a lot of time to draw today. But it is very exciting. This thing's pretty cool. So it's got 2 different bases you can use, and you can slide that middle one off. And I think that is what I'm going to do here because I have a pretty tall picture I'm working on. And this easel, you can roll it, and you can actually tilt it to be flat. And then you can actually make it up to, and it can hold a canvas that's up to 71 inches. So mine is only 40, but that's still plenty. So yeah, I'm gonna get that set up, and I'm not super sure where I'm gonna stick it in the room, but I'm gonna figure that out. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna get to do very much drawing today at all. So, that's the way it goes. So I'm still playing around with exactly how I'm gonna configure this whole thing in my room, because I have like this big overhead light that runs the length of the room, and it's like right in the middle. And if I don't position my artwork in the right place, then I can't really use that light, and then I have to bring another light over, and it's just, yeah. So, and then I had to figure out too where I was going to put my laptop and how that was going to work, and then I had to figure out like how I was going to configure like the seat I was sitting in, and trying to work on like the bottom of this thing. So the gator board itself is not that thick, and so it does have a little bit of give. I mean, that's pretty much how much give it kind of had when it was like on the drawing board though. So if that really bothers me, I might scoot this whole thing over so that the picture itself is more centered on the easel. And that might help. I don't know. We'll see. It might not be like a huge problem if I'm not like pushing on it a lot. I don't know. And I still try to figure out how much I'm going to tilt the easel and where I'm going to tilt it from. There's like there's so many options. I'm not used to having all these options. It's going to be interesting. And of course it's like 11 p.m. and I'm ready for a snack. I know that sounds hilarious. Oh, and then, okay. So I still have my arrow. I still have my arrow from yesterday, and I'm going to use that. And I'm also using the yarn from yesterday as another kind of like marker of where I am in the grid. Because I really struggled with that. That was just because the pattern that I'm doing here is very vertical. And there's this temptation to keep following the lines down when you're drawing them. And then you're just like, geez, where am I in this thing? It's like weirdly easy to get lost in the pattern. It's like, it's a little bit like drawing hair. So yeah, I mean, the things that are hard about this are surprising. And it's because when I was doing all those practice drawings, I wasn't doing like long drawings, especially when I did it up to scale. So yeah, this has been an interesting day. So I finished a few more inches. I am enjoying like just the weird stuff that I can emphasize in this bark. It's pretty neat. The way I have this easel set up right now works pretty well, actually. I didn't run into like back problems or anything, and I'm able to get it at a height that's pretty comfortable while I'm sitting. So this is pretty cool. Pretty exciting. Also, it was a good idea that I had a snack. I think that was what made this happen. I'm going to tell myself. All right, it's day 7. Last day of week 1. And I'm gonna keep going down this trunk. I think I'm just gonna kind of like do a lot of the trunk, then I'll start on some of the foliage. It's kind of like once you have a rhythm going, why stop, you know? So this bottom part of the trunk gets more and more obscured by shadow. So I probably won't make it as detailed, we'll see. And the way I have this placed in the room makes the filming kind of interesting. So I might play around with some different angles and see what happens. This is where I am at 1 week. Not bad. Definitely did a lot of stuff, so just gonna keep going. I know how this is too. It's like I feel like I'm making good progress and then I'll be like near the end and going, how is there still so much to do? So yeah, I'm not gonna get cocky yet. So I'll do a zoom in here. And you can just see where we're at. So yeah, tomorrow I'm hoping that I'll get almost done with that bark. I might have to do another day of the bark to get all the way up to the top. But yeah, I think after that I'll probably start out doing all the leaves in the base area. Not sure though.